Welcome to Audiogyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have Vaibhav Kumaresh with us on Audiogyan. Vaibhav is an animator, the creator of the timeless animated angry maths teacher Simpoo, the cheerful Chulbuli and the amazing Amaron clay animation commercials, and the founder of Vaibhav Studios along with few of his power-packed team members, and they have been successfully producing some interesting Indian animation. So it's a real honor to have you on Audiogyan, Vaibhav. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thanks, Kedar. Thanks to you.
Yeah. So I recently interviewed Nina Sabnani and we spoke about overall how did it come about, what was the overall history of animation in India and how did it start and stuff like that.
Right.
But with you, I would like to discuss the state of animation in India currently.
Wow.
Let's start. Can you tell us a brief history of animation films in India? What's been happening?
Right.
And
more contemporary.
More contemporary, right. Yeah.
Because I'm sure Nina would have given you the right, from a history point of view.
Yeah. I would like to know how much, how is it being implemented or how is it executed commercially mainly?
Right. To begin with, when we were studying, after my graduation, I did my graduation in fine arts. So after that, I got to know that there is a course where you can learn to make animation films. So till then we didn't even know that there is something like this. Forget knowledge about the industry. The only thing we knew is the films that we all probably grew up watching, Walt Disney or some. So we knew about films. We used to watch so many theatricals, whether it's Disney or there was a clay animation series called Pingu on Doordarshan. So that's all I knew of animation. But during the final years of my BFA, which is Fine Arts, I got to know that there is this place in Ahmedabad called National Institute of Design where they teach you how to make animation films. So that excitement, you can tell your own stories and you see these films and now you can make it. So that excitement led me to NID. And then fortunately I got through and then learning animation was very, very fascinating. So, but even then, I had no clue what is happening in the industry because there was no if there was anything, I didn't know about it. I didn't know films division. We've all grown up on that Ek Titli, Anek Titliyan. Ek Chidiya, Anek Chidiya, all those, Ek Gilari. It was Ek Anek was the film called. Correct. And we've heard about films division just through those films. The logo comes and then the jingle, everything about it. But other than that, because that's a government promotional video, so there was no idea who made them or what the industry was. There were some ads that I had seen, Natraj pencil. Remember the ball match ki aakhri ball or ye laga sixer, Natraj fifth champion, and they've revamped it recently, but it was a very, very old campaign. Correct. Then there was this Amul Butter campaign. It's so old. I think late 70s or early 80s it must have started. So during my 10th standard and all, I would see those things and I was thinking that, wow, this is quite interesting. It uses illustrations or, drawings and it tells an interesting concept. It's witty, lines are there. So maybe I'll do something with advertising and no clue. So what is going to come out of it, there was absolutely no idea, regarding that. It was purely, wow, ye mazedar hai, mujhe karna hai, man ho raha hai, karna hai. So that was the only intention. Correct. Which I feel it's very good, to be like that, and which I find it very rare nowadays because students are so focused on the industry. Correct. Ye hoga to kya, what is the outcome?
It's all job oriented.
And that's so huge. It's a pressure, no? And as a result, what you love doing or what you want to do takes a backseat. And that screws up the whole life, actually.
Correct.
So from that point of view, I think, that ignorance is bliss concept worked very well with me and even working very well even now. So So from a history point of view, only much later, we got to soak in that, oh wow, this is what has happened, over the years. So when I think late 98 is when I graduated from NID and started working in Mumbai. Around that time is when I got to know that, okay, there is one studio, there are two studios in Bombay.
Correct.
Who've made, and those are those legends, who used to make those films. Like Ram Mohan sir had a studio, or Bhim Sen ji had his own studio, which is Climb Media, which his son Kirit, headed, continues to head now.
Correct.
So, and Ram Mohan sir, that was like his Ram Mohan biographics was like one of the meccas of animation that time. And the ads used to get produced, and every animator, it's like one DNA out of which so many people have come out, so many seniors of the industry have come out. So these couple of places we got to know, and I think around that time, outsourced animation, from the US or Europe started coming to India. Because maybe, it usually goes to China or Korea. But when we in India started picking it up, like our art, the skill point of view, it was amazing.
Correct.
And the best advantages was we spoke English, which in China or Korea is a big challenge.
Correct.
So for the clients to come to India and not China, Korea or Philippines maybe made more sense. So work started coming here, and that's how I think the second innings of Indian animation started. So Indian studios started catering to these outsourced projects. I would not call that Indian animation industry, because it's an American or a European industry just based in
just
India.
laborers kind of.
Yeah. So, but fortunately or unfortunately, that's the direction we all went. So
between the time we started exploring with Ram sir or Timan sir and other people,
right,
and by the time the Hollywood kind of animation was outsourced to India, in between that time, were we working on our own concepts and projects, or it was still somewhere?
I think it was very rare, because say late 90s, see the films division had its golden period when Claire Weeks from Disney came in. I think Nehruji had invited him, and then one person from Walt Disney came and set up the cartoon division in films division here in Mumbai. And he taught, like he had a workshop, and I think they'd just finished Bambi in Walt Disney Studios. So there was a proper animation workshop that was conducted for participants in India, and people had to apply for that workshop. So after that workshop, they were absorbed by the films division. This cartoon division was specifically set up for that. And then they started, there was a bunch of filmmakers who explored animation, whether it was hand-drawn, whether it was stop motion. So that was beautiful. That was and all those, Bap Dadas, they were the ones who made all these cult films. But after that, peak died out, some of them branched out into their own individual studios. Like Ram Mohan sir had his studio, then Bhim Sen ji had his studio. I think Samant sir was there, and there were a couple more people. But I think, let's say, we know a bit about Ram Mohan sir's films, which were on the commercial front. Like he'd done a lot of title animation for feature films, Bollywood feature film, like Angur, Shatranj Ke Khiladi. A lot of these films began with animation in the title sequence. So those were things that you've seen, and wow, like say in the mass media, like how we saw Ek Anek. So you're getting to see bits of animation, which is, this is Indian animation. Then Amul Girl probably got animated, or we saw some more TV commercials where there were little hints of animation. So we knew that, okay, these are the studios that are doing. But other than that, I think Bhim Sen ji continued to do a lot of his independent films. Even after coming out of the films division, he has directed Gharonda, which was Amul Palekar's the beautiful Hindi Bollywood live action film. So he was equally comfortable. He's a storyteller, filmmaker. So he's animation or live action, medium doesn't matter to him. So he was making his brand of films. So as a result, I would say that the independent Indian animation content was very slow.
And scattered.
And scattered, yes. And I don't know, other than Bombay, I don't remember if any other studio was making these independent products. Like we know Kutti Chatan, that my dear, like that Chota Chetan, the first 3D film.
Correct. Yeah.
From Kerala, that's one production. In Andhra and other industries also, there's a lot of these effects based attempts at animation. So there must have been, I'm not very aware of those inputs. So there has been something or the other going on, but it was very, very minuscule. When the second wave came in, it came in as a lucrative option.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe to sustain in an animation setup, the funding, I don't know how challenging it was earlier, but now when this wave came in, you have like foreign exchange coming in and huge quantum of work. So everyone started learning animation. And Ramon Sir's studio was obviously, that's why I call it the DNA, because the workshop started there. And when Ramon Sir decided that I am going to tie up with UTV to take up such projects, that's when the actual expansion and all began. So oodles of work started coming in. This is again late 90s and early 2000. So there was another studio, like there were these French animation studios. There was one called Millimage. They set up their studio in Chennai, called Millitoons. So there were a couple of our seniors who were there. So as a result, there were these small mushrooming studios that were starting to do animation. And that was all hand drawn at that time. So late 90s. And in Bombay there was this UTV RM Ram Mohan UTV collaboration. Then when that job started coming in from Ramon Sir's place, there was another branch out. And within a couple of years, that mushrooming started everywhere, because like people were probably approached by various other people to set up an animation studio for them. So then there was like, Escorts, which makes tractors and all those heavy duty in Delhi machinery. They started Esco Toons. In Trivandrum there was Toons Animation India, which came up, which was again initiated by Mr. Bill Dennis, who was part of Ramon Sir's team at UTV. So this DNA starts splitting and going to different places. In Hyderabad there was Padmalaya, then there was Heart Animation Studio. So as work started coming in, small training setups also started, because you need, even though I was a fine arts graduate, animation was a new ball game for me. Because fine arts, you're drawing one beautiful looking image. But in animation, it's not one image, it's the beautiful looking movement that you have to create. With probably a series of images. So that is a very different world. So
it's a different language altogether.
Exactly. And so that training had to be given to our artists to be able to take up such huge work. So then these workshops or training modules started coming up. I think Heart was one such school in Hyderabad that used to do 2D animation, classic 2D animation training. And because work, it has to be like production work, so there would be key animators, there would be cleanup artists, there would be in-between artists, there will be ink and paint artists, there will be cameraman. So all that, the hierarchy and the pipeline, for the pipeline of production, all these roles were made, and we absorbed all that. So then there was, in Bombay, there was UTV Toons, then in Trivandrum, then in Bangalore also there was one small studio, then in Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi. So all animation flourishing everywhere, and lots of work coming in. People probably made lots of money, and so that an industry was formed, and that's when all these reports started coming in that prediction is that animation is going to be, it's a boom, and all these many $1 million market is going to become, and this big industry, all that started coming in. few years later, when 2D animation started dying because 3D animation came in, like computer generated 3D, like with the Toy Story and all that coming in, even episodic content became increasingly digital 3D. So the 2D animation, the studios had to like dismantle or they had to learn 3D. And all the senior 2D animation artists had to pick up 3D. So because we are doing service-based work, we are driven by what the client wants or what a trend somewhere else is. So again, we started, like say Maya, what is that advanced, what is that, MAA, that's the software.
Yeah.
Then there's a school that started, like Ketan, like Mac, MAAC, Maya Academy of Advanced Cinematics.
I remember.
So they started teaching Max, Maya, all these 3D animation software.
Correct.
So then training also assumed a different direction with so many, like Aptech, which was the IT head, came into animation in the form of Arena.
Arena. A lot of them.
So there was Mac, there was Arena, all these. So new generation of people started entering, or a different variety of people starting entering, the animation space, because the medium was changing to 3D. And so some of the 2D animators they faded out, or some of them adapted and they branched out into 3D animation. And with 3D animation, suddenly computers and the technology part started getting a lot more weightage. So all these people like Nvidia or HP and all the hardware and the hardware, a lot of the hardware guys and even the software like Autodesk, all these people started, because India was a huge market, because such a India is catering to rest of the world.
Correct.
And all the work is coming here, and there are so many studios, and those studios are now converting to 3D, so that's a huge market for all the 3D hardware and people. So a new ecosystem started happening. So that is going on even now. Now another layer where VFX. So it is not just 3D cartoon animation. VFX for the live action industry is such a huge thing now. Whether it was all the past super hits, whether it was Spider-Man, at a time it was the highest grossing movie, even more than any live action film. Then there's so the VFX has some of those films have really done well commercially. So whether it was Planet of the Apes, whether it's Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. So all these are like properties. They are like repetitive
milestones kind of a thing.
So like Planet of the Apes also came up with 3 parts. Then Star Wars revamped itself.
Okay.
Avengers is like one staple dad kind of a thing. So everyone is cashing in on the VFX and special effects number, and so many properties are being adapted into VFX based films. So that gradual migration into different mediums is happening. But what I'm stressing on is that it is all still outsourced work. So starting end of 90s, it's like 2 decades easily.
Yeah.
We are devoting all our time to catering to somebody else's need. As a result, what is happening is we have forgotten how to tell our own stories. Because telling a story or making a film is no child's play.
Correct. The skill must have developed, but the storytelling part is missing. Or
exactly. So if it is like the technology part or how to do a film, all that we know, because now the plus point of doing these outsourced work was you're working directly with the best guys or the most experienced guys in the industry. So the tools are the same, the software is the same, or the machine is the same. It's not like हमारे पास कम है इसलिए हम लोग अच्छा नहीं बनाते. You're using the same tools as what they're using there. Like if you see Life of Pi, the Oscar-winning film, more than half the work is done in India, in Mumbai and Hyderabad and like out of their LA studio. So similarly, so many, like I think all the VFX-based films are they're all outsourced to different studios who create that content. So the quality of production is not a problem at all. We guys can create the world's best quality, but storytelling is what we are not practicing, because you are telling me that ये मेरी कहानी है, इसको ऐसा चाहिए, ऐसा करना है, मैं कर दूंगा, बट क्या करना है वो मैंने सोचना बंद कर दिया है. So what is my own story? What is the story that I want to tell? Unless we do that, how will we expand our industry? Like right now, that's why I'm saying that this is not an Indian animation industry. So while 90% of us still continue doing, whatever the industry in India, 90% of it is still catering to the American or the European or the rest of the global industry. There is a small 10% that from the beginning was focusing on telling its own stories, or their forte was not this outsourced work. They may not be such humongous studios, because obviously there's not such a huge workload as compared to the outsourced work. But these small studios also, to me, that is the only hope. They are the only hope. And the only hope in the other side, which is the outsourcing side, is their technical expertise. But these are two different mindsets. What I'm observing now is the people who opt for the outsourced kind of work it'll get soaked into their blood. And I know that there's such high potential artists who are happy doing that kind of work and earning a certain revenue. They are not, I feel, that guts to plunge into something like this is probably has died out.
Correct.
Is what I feel, because I see such beautiful talent not willing to contribute to the Indian animation industry. Maybe because it's far more challenging, because you have to create it from scratch.
Correct.
And it requires much more guts.
Correct.
So I don't know, that way again I'm saying, that I'm fortunate because we learnt the way we learnt animation. I would call that education. We didn't go through training.
Correct.
That's the huge difference. In education, you are explored, you are exposed to so many things, and you choose what's best. You choose what is your strength, and you are aware of what your weaknesses are, and you are encouraged. At least at NID, we were encouraged to tell our own stories. So when we came out, and like say when I went to, even before I started work in 98, I started work in Bombay. But before that, I went to Chennai, I went to Bangalore, I went to all the other, those Ramon sir's studio in Mumbai. And I wanted to just see what is happening. And I could not imagine myself working there. Like if I have to do Mickey Mouse exactly like the way Disney draws it, I can't. I will spoil that Mickey Mouse. I'll draw it in some way, in my way. It will no longer remain Mickey Mouse.
Correct.
And that won't work for an outsourced thing. If a character looks a certain way, you have to draw that character like that. And I was not at all interested, nor was I capable of doing that. But more than anything else, I was not interested. And my interest lay somewhere else. I want to tell my own stories. What I was doing as a student, I'm still doing now. Like we are learning to tell our own stories. And what I really love is when you're telling your own stories, you are cooking up from inside your head. Whatever you've experienced, you are sharing it in your films. So that's bound to show in your films. When you tell your own story, your uniqueness is bound to show in your film. When I'm telling someone else's story, then I'm playing a different role. I'm catering to someone. But when I have to take out stuff from inside my own, and I have to question myself, what is it that you love to say? What do you want to tell your audience?
It's a different ballgame.
It's a different ballgame. And that's a different addiction also. So we've never ever, we cannot also do that. Like we cannot go into this outsourced kind of a work at all. That's not our cup of tea. So from the beginning, thank God, and with the support of the entire team that's there, we've been successfully telling our own stories and earning our money and surviving pretty well, so well that we are funding our own feature film. So that way I am very, very happy. That over the years we've taken service work as in within India. And having grown up here, culturally we are soaking in elements from our culture.
Correct.
Or growing up in this culture, we are also, I'm much more aware of my local audience. I know my audience. And I know if I tell a story like this, it will be fun for them.
Yeah. There's a stronger connect culturally. And
Culturally.
also, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So Vaibhav, like like this might be a slightly trivial question, but just wanted to understand your bit also. The same I heard from Nina ma'am also, that like animation is dominantly perceived to be like a children's thing, right?
Right.
So why that has been the trend, or that has caused this perception, or what do you think? Where did we fall short that now it is perceived like that?
Because we are not creating decent content, because we are. And another thing, when we say animation is for children,
Majority. because-
sometimes
yeah.
sometimes it, to me, it also gives a certain impression that children are second rated. Like, say, if the good quality content, if it's good quality, then it's for adults. If it is slightly mediocre, then it can be passed on to kids. It is happening like that a lot now. I'm not saying that that's what happens all the time. There's amazing quality content for children also. But globally, the medium of animation allows itself to an altogether different level of imagination, which triggers, which is widely used in children's content. Like, say, if there was a children's illustrated book, those illustrations can easily come to life using animation. So the possibility of something which was children's literature coming to life in a moving picture format is much higher because of animation. But at the same time, there are so many filmmakers who, it's finally an art form. Animation is an art form. So as an artist, I can, like, my way of storytelling, as long as I'm using animation as a tool to tell my story. So as long as I do that, I'm just expressing myself through my work. So my expressions may be for children, may not be for children. So there are so many, even Indian artists, who make the films their way. And children may not enjoy them. Adults may enjoy it more.
Correct.
So the perception is because the mass of the majority of the work that we are creating is for children.
Sure.
Even now, if you say animation, automatically Cartoon Network, Pogo, Disney, all those things, names will run across your mind, and they are all catering to children. But I somehow feel that children are like miniature adults today. They are much smarter than us. Like, if I may not know the function of my phone, but my kid may have explored it, because so fearlessly they jump into it with their curiosity, and they are much smarter. They are exposed to, like, just animation itself. Like I told you, I used to see Doordarshan film. Today they have like 500 Doordarshans from bombarding them from all over.
YouTube is there.
And plus, even on television also, even if, YouTube is another level, but on television also, you have so much option. And theatrical releases, you have digital 3D, you have different exposure to different styles also. Like in clay animation, there are so many films. In 3D animation, there are so many films, digital 3D. In hand-drawn films, you can see so many kinds of shows on TV. So from an artistic art form point of view, there is a lot more variety and exposure today. So I don't know. I don't know. That perception will still persist. But till we make content which is very popular with adults, like, say, Simpoo, and I did not think of children. It's a story that I like this. I want to make this. I'm having fun with this. And it was not a children's content at all. The adults enjoyed it more than any like, it used to come on Channel V, which is not a children's channel at all.
Correct.
So the youth was so much into it. Now Channel V is dead. The character also is no more, But the old films are still like hot property on the internet.
Correct.
There are like fan clubs, Simpoo fan clubs, and there are like fake Facebook Simpoo pages where people have kept him alive. The audience is taking the character ahead. So, like, what do you say of that? Like, say, I feel, a filmmaker should just tell his or her story. then whether children like it or adults like it, even the filmmaker will start, guessing, or even the filmmaker will get a feel of it. Like, my work, I think, children enjoy a lot. So even say I will also get a feel over the years of making films. I know that, okay, when I'm making this kind of content, these guys used to like it a lot. But if I want to tell this kind of story, maybe I want to tell it for them. Sometimes you also think about your audience, and like you do that. Like in advertising, obviously you're thinking that this is the audience that you are going to talk to or make this film for. Then apart from that, the way the film turns out, you also guess that, okay, maybe a different kind of audience may also associate with this film in a different way. So that's why filmmaking is a constant challenge. Nobody, even a Yash Raj or Karan Johar or any Ram Gopal Lanma, will have a series of flops. Why? Because he made such brilliant films. So there's no formula. Even he could go wrong with his audience. So
it's all the more challenging because
exactly,
like there should be maybe 100 Simpoos coming in to probably change the trend or at least change the perception.
Right. Otherwise, what I feel is there is a much stronger brand like Chota Bheem, which is very, very popular with children.
Correct.
So as a result, if we think children, we think animation, or if it's Shin-chan, or if it's Doraemon, which are doing very well with children, or now Motu Patlu.
Children thing is also slightly global, I think, or is it different when it comes to animated characters in the West who are meant for adults?
See, what is Avengers? I feel it's a children's film.
Yeah.
So many adults will get irritated watching it. But if you're a cult fan and follower and all that, then you will enjoy certain things. Like, so it has such an adult following. Avengers, and like say I have not been into that for a long time. So when I see that, I feel like, hey man, it's a children's film. Maybe I'm not grown up watching that entire era, or there are backstories of Thor, and he comes from there, or he beats this guy, and wow. So the fans will soak up all that. And they've been doing that, and there's such like from our studio itself, they'll be like, wow, this thing is releasing. Oh, Batman, I want the Batmobile. And we have one guy with one full Batmobile. Evening, like how people take pets for a walk, he'll take his Batmobile, all those things. So then, how like different content will appeal to different people in so many different ways. My kid also will watch Batman versus Superman. Batman abhi mar jayega, Superman mar jayega. They will grab something else out of that plot. Maybe an adult something else will appeal to that person.
Correct.
So, the best part is, we have content with so much variety now. Like in terms of genres. So,
and styles also. Obviously, you have covered a lot of questions already in the flow itself.
Right.
I would like to conclude with one last question, which is like, how do you see now future of animation in India? I mean, in terms of the next 2 decades, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
So there lies the greatest challenge for us, because at least like for me, one thing is very, very clear, that we have to tell our own stories, and we have to make it commercially successful. So far, we've been totally we failed at that. At least on the larger screen, every film that we've made has been a huge loss, financially also. And I would say the prime reason is that because we never invested our time into telling our own stories. We were so busy telling somebody else's stories through this outsourced work that when we finally decided ki chalo apna film banayenge, we made a bad film first time, because we don't know. Even Disney, before he made, every step was a new exploration for them also. In his garage, he'd made so many episodic films, short films, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Then when sound came in, he explored with sound. But every time he is catching his audience with his unique storytelling. The medium of animation was much more unique. So whatever moved was like, wow, what happened? So it was more fascinating. Now it's less fascinating because people have anyway grown up, they know what is it. Arey, hill raha hai to kya hua? It's अच्छे से नहीं हिल रहा है. Yeah. Now the storytelling is the heart of everything. So we were not telling our own stories, and like I said, it's not an easy job. So the first set of films that we made were all flops. And so now I think the only task very clearly cut out in front of me is that we have to make a film which will appeal to our audience. Like the storytelling and making of the film is just half the job. The selling of it, or the distribution of it, or the exhibition of it, or the promotion of that is equally more than half the job.
Correct.
You know, you need a good partner, because we are competing against Bollywood. You know, when a Yashraj or any other big banner film gives the exhibitor so many films in a year,
Correct.
why would he want to, you know, replace that with a cartoon film which has the worst track record so far? The exhibitor itself will say, अच्छा मैं Monday सुबह 9 बजे का शो तेरे लिए रख दूंगा, कौन आएगा देखने? And after one day it will shut down because nobody came. So you need that clout to be present, to be seen, whether it is the pre-launch advertising run-up to the release, or during the release you have to ensure that you have so many screens across the country and prime time slots. So that to me is the toughest job. Making the film, ठीक है, हमें जो भी आता है उससे हम लोग फिल्म बना लेंगे, but we have to collaborate. We have to get Bollywood on our side and get their work, their help. First thing that we can do well is what we know. Make a good film with a good story, with probably, you know, interesting characters that connect with our audience. Okay, production quality has always been good, but storytelling is what we've lacked. And creating unique characters, personalities in our stories that our audience can connect with. So that is my attempt. You know, at our studio also we are working on our maiden feature film. So my hope is that if we can, once our film is done, if we can share it with some of those Bollywood guys and get them on board to promote this, and hopefully if the audience likes it, then it will definitely change the game. Then all the producers who used to put money earlier will again come back. You know, they just need one positive case study.
Correct.
And everybody is willing to replicate that. Acha, you made a film in 10 crores and you got back 20 crores. I'll put 20 crores and I'll get back 40 crores. So that's how the whole gambling thing started so many years back. When that little Hanuman did well, it made a profit. So then they said, अरे उन्होंने 3.5 crore में बनाया, चलो हम लोग मैं 15 करोड़ डालेगा और मुझे इतना मिलेगा. तो 15 करोड़ के बाद उसने 3 करोड़ ही कमाया.
Correct.
So that's where the perception of the person who puts money also, you know, I think everybody hopefully would have learned from this first innings, and we will probably tread more wisely in our second innings. So that next, like you said, the next 1 decade is very critical. You know, and again, one film also, if one film does well, it's not enough. Or say if our film, I'm prepared, okay, our film will not make any money. We're putting in so much money, maybe it will not make anything. It's okay. But for us personally, for me, this is my learning. I will not grow, or we as a team will not grow if we keep making our ad films. Because ad films is again your outsourced kind of work.
Correct.
Service providing work. It may be for the Indian audience, we are enjoying it. That's a different zone. Okay, we've been doing that for now close to 2 decades. Now, if we don't migrate to telling longer stories, at least personally, that's where my heart lies. If I want to tell my own stories my way, if I don't start doing it, because when I'm doing it, it's a different level of addiction. I'm a student all over again. So if I don't do that, then I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to learn. So we have to take this plunge. Okay. Whether if it commercially works well, that's a bonus. You know, I'll be happy at least if I get the money to make my next film.
Actually, I wish that it becomes a hit, because that will change the things and like people will mature to invest some money.
Right.
All right, I think there's a lot more to chat about, and it's
so I think moving ahead, answering your question, the way ahead is to tell your own stories and get it right, promote it right, and most important, we need our audiences. You know, the Indian audience is such a huge market. You know, more than half the globe is Asian Indians. Then why are we ignoring them? You know, the trend is like you have to tell global stories because Indian animation market does not work. You don't know the bloody global audience. How will you tell them a story? You can't entertain your own audience. How will you entertain a global audience? So that is a kind of a, that global audience thought process is all, I feel it's so wrong. We'll again burn our hands doing that, and we are just looking at doing that. So I think the more local a content is, the more global it will be, because more local means more unique.
Correct.
I am showing Damunagar something, my own story. Who in the world would know about Damunagar?
Correct.
Okay, so for them, Damunagar, wow, what is that? Wow, it's like that. And people are, so whatever it is, it's a new thing. Today, the entire world is so cosmopolitan. Everyone is like a new culture. Oh, Iranian cuisine. Oh, wow. Or something, or some Mongolian martial art. Wow, I want to learn that. What is that? Like, okay, you have some 100 forms of martial art, but something new comes in. There is some curiosity. So, and there is respect for that. If it is done authentically, if I am going to eat Tibetan cuisine somewhere, if it is authentic Tibetan, it's not like apna desi Chinese wala option nahi hai. But if it's like authentic Tibetan cuisine, I had something, I will remember it and I'll respect it for that. Why are people watching Japanese animation films? They are not trying to entertain an American audience or a world audience. They are saying, yaar, मैं अपना जापानी लोगों के लिए बना रहा हूँ, मेरी कहानियाँ हैं. And the visual and the culture shown in it, everything is 101% Japanese. But they cult following हो गया. And पूरा world अभी Japanese culture को जानता है या अपने हिसाब से interpret कर रहा है या उनके लिए respect बढ़ गया है. तो वो होना ही है. Like Rajnikant is so famous in Malaysia or in China or so many, because people are making it their own because they are seeing something unique in that. So I feel the more local and more truthfully local, make it truthfully. Like don't do a pretend local thing. Like don't package India to a global audience or some, that is like a fake local. So when you tell your story very truthfully, then it is bound to appeal to a larger audience.
All right, this is a good note to end this. It was fun talking to you and I got to learn a lot of new things.
Thanks, Kiran.
So thanks a lot once again for giving us your time, and
Thank you.
I hope to have you again on Audiogyan.
Definitely, sure. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Saavn, Stitcher or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.